and welcome back. For the last 10 months of 2024, I've been releasing monthly episodes in my series Off the Beaten Path. This is a show that's special to me because I'm an aesthetic person and I really enjoy seeing how people put the places together that they work out of, whether it's for drumming and recording, teaching lessons, building drums, or anything in between. I feel very strongly that our drum community is a tight-knit group, and I love seeing all these spaces that people have created, but more importantly, hearing their stories and learning about what they do. I got a lot of positive response in 2023 from this series, and that definitely was encouraging as I went into this year trying to find new places and people to highlight. So to kick things off in 2024, I visited Derek Mance of Milwaukee Drum Co., of course, here in Wisconsin, so it wasn't a terrible trip for me. Derek is someone I was aware of for years, but never really got to connect with, so this was a really nice excuse for us to finally meet and get to spend some time together. Now, I'm a builder and restorer of drums myself, but definitely not on Derek's level, and every once in a while people reach out to me asking if I can help them with cutting new bearing edges or do some work on their drums, and I don't have any hesitation in typically just sending them to Derek these days. I thought it was really cool to learn about his process, but see how everything's evolved over the years as he's garnered more and more work for what he does. Continuing on into February, I got to visit a friend who I've known for many years, Wayne Salzman. Now, Wayne is an A-list drummer who's toured with artists like Eric Johnson, and for many years he was basing himself out of Austin, Texas, which of course is a bigger music hub than Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, where he's currently living. But over the last few years, as his family has grown and their needs have changed, he's settled back closer to where he's grown up, and it's been nice for us to be able to spend more time together and hang out and run into each other more frequently. I think Wayne has a really cool space, and what I liked about it most is that this is the whole reason I started the series, trying to highlight some spaces that would encourage others to put their own space together. Of course, I would love to go tour these million-dollar studios and see the biggest drum shops in the world, but I think when you see what Wayne is doing with just a standard basement, this can be motivating to you to get started on putting your own space together. Aside from that, I also found it cool that Wayne, being a handy person like myself, has put together some creative storage options and even found a way to recycle old drumsticks to create hooks and racks for cables and other accessories. Going into March, I was able to make my third stop in Wisconsin and visit Undigital Drums in Kenosha. Now, this wasn't a shop I was familiar with at all, but my friend Tim Baltus, who I highlighted on the series in 2023, connected me with Tim Ferret and Dennis Garretts, who really run this shop, and it was a real treat to see what they're doing and what they're building here in Wisconsin. Drum shops are becoming more and more of a rarity, and to see a drum shop thriving the way Undigital is gives me a lot of hope for the future, and it's nice that we have something of our own here in Wisconsin. Going into April kicked off a series of videos I shot while I took a trip to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This was a big endeavor for me, traveling across something like 5 states and well over 1,000 miles round trip just to shoot videos for this channel, but I wouldn't change it for a thing because I found it super inspirational and I had a blast. So for the first in these Pittsburgh videos, I went and toured the headquarters of Drum Factory Direct. This is a company I've been buying parts from for years, and it's really a small family business that's been passed on to a second generation, as well as getting a lot of assistance from a pretty well-known figure in the drum community, Mike Dawson. Personally, my favorite part about this experience was seeing how they've taken this old traditional Regal church and turned it into a factory and shipping warehouse for everything they're doing. Throughout the aisles where the congregation would sit stood a bunch of racking with thousands and thousands of different drum parts, all cataloged and organized, and as you made your way up to the altar, they had a shipping station where everything was going in and out. I feel like this is a side of DFD that most people haven't been able to see, so it was really cool for me to be able to share it with everyone else out there and see how unique this space is. For the next stop in Pittsburgh, I visited Hawthorne Drum Shop and got to spend the day with the founder, Chris Hawthorne. I feel like this drum shop has a pretty good reputation nationally, and people are aware of all the various vintage drums and boutique things Chris carries in his store. To me, Chris exemplifies what a modern drum shop is. a very unique and cool brick and mortar spot, but finds a way to thrive and reach a wider audience by shipping all over the world. Chris had tons of stories to share with us, and honestly, I had to edit the video down to something so small that I had to leave plenty of it out. But I really have a ton of respect for what Chris is doing and the success he's found in this world. For the final stop in this Pittsburgh trip, I went and visited the home studio of Mike Dawson. Mike is probably most well known for his work with Modern Drummer over the years and the podcast he co-hosted with Mike Johnston. Mike is a true renaissance man in the music field because aside from being heavily involved with Drum Factory Direct, he does plenty of work as a gigging musician, a recording engineer, and even teaching lessons. I found his space super unique because it's one of the few spaces I've been to that has two separate rooms for different tasks. When I toured his smaller room, or what he would call his office, he still had a setup with drums, but it was mostly geared towards live streaming, not recording. As we went over into his larger room, this was kind of his studio space where he could do full-blown multi-track recording and even accommodate an entire band if he needed to. Aside from that, his collection of drums is pretty unbelievable, and it was really fun to hear the story behind each piece and how he acquired it and what it means to him now. So continuing into July, I was able to make a stop at Nordic Drum Shells in Minneapolis while I happened to be rolling through on a short tour. Getting the chance to hang out in person with the owner, Dave West, was really special because previously when I was just a customer looking at ordering some custom shells, he called me and spent a ton of time explaining his thoughts on what I wanted and what would work best in my situation. He's someone who really cares about drum shell construction, and I think that's evident as you saw us walk through this space and see the level of detail and care he takes with making each shell. I have some more stuff coming pretty soon with Nordic Shells on my channel, so make sure to stay tuned to see that. As we got into August, I was able to visit the home studio of one of my closer friends locally, Dan Cable. Dan is someone who really helped me get going with home recording and has always been an open book with ideas and knowledge. When I visited his space, what I found really unique was how he's incorporating electronic drums into his workflow to make things more efficient in his situation working out of a home that he shares with his family. I know that in today's world, the topic of electronic drums can be pretty testy, but I think Dan did a great job of showcasing how you can use electronic drums in a creative way without being cheesy or corny. Moving into September, I was able to make another trip down to Milwaukee to visit Ulysses Santiago of Yuli Percussion. I'd seen these cowbells before in some local stores throughout the Milwaukee area and always wondered the story behind them, but little did I know it was someone in my own state making these instruments by hand. I feel like the cowbell can be looked at with a little bit of a lighthearted attitude by modern drum set players, but when it comes to traditional salsa music and Latin American music, the cowbell is a super important instrument, and I think the care and level of detail that Yuli is putting into these really highlights how much of a special sound it is in that music. For the final episode of Season 2, I went up to Green Bay, Wisconsin to visit Steve Seitz of Drumistic Lesson Studio. Steve reached out to me years ago about getting together to connect and play some drums before I had a gig in Green Bay, and from the first time I went to his basement studio, I was blown away, and it was a super big inspiration to me as I put together my own teaching space here. Up until this episode, I really hadn't had the chance to tour a space that was designed for teaching lessons, and because it's such a big reality for many of us making a living in percussion, I was really excited to share Steve's space. So all in all, in 2024, I was able to explore and share 10 new spaces over 3 states, traveling just over 2,600 miles. If you'd like to support the work I'm doing, there's a variety of ways to help out. The first would just be to watch the videos and engage with the content. Subscribing, commenting, and liking videos can be a huge boost for the algorithm and really helps me out. Additionally, if any of these spaces really mean anything extra to you, reaching out to them and letting them know you saw my video, or supporting their shop, taking a lesson, or having them do some work for you, I think is a great way to say thanks for them giving up their time to me to let me come in and shoot these videos. And finally, if you feel so inclined and want to support my work, you can use the Super Chat feature here on YouTube or leave me a tip through PayPal or Venmo. Putting on a series like this does come with some associated cost, so I appreciate you supporting the channel and the work I'm doing in any way possible. Now, before closing out this video, I want to bring up one final call to action for all the viewers out there. I'd love to see your spaces that you're working out of and potentially feature them on this series, even if I can't be there in person. So over the next couple months, I'm going to leave it open that if you'd like to send in some pictures or videos of the space you're working out of and tell me a little bit about yourself and the various things you're doing within the drumming community, you can send that to my email and maybe you can see it here on the channel in 2025. I have my email down in the description of this video, so if you feel inclined to share, don't hesitate to reach out. And until next time, thanks.